Where's Duke?
Where is Duke?
Who used to be on?
Aunt Phil.
It was Aunt Phil, but somebody else would
Oh,
always be.
Josh.
Oh, Josh. Yeah, he's expecting.
All right, here
He
we
looks
go.
it.
5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It is lunchtime in Rome. Tonight is episode 172, entitled Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Is there an emotional need more often taken from us or not met than respect? It sure seems like there isn't a lot of it in our world today. It's certainly one of the most often communicated, but what really is respect when you break it down? We're talking about that emotional need at the table this evening, so pull up a seat and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app, which watch us at, watch us live at lunchtimeinrome.com/live or listen directly on lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you gave us a 5-star review. Jay, what is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes of the podcast, and we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is lunchtime in Rome.
Sorry, I was a little distracted while I was reading that opening.
We give this guy a script, you know?
It's okay, Chris. Not everybody's as professional as you are.
Ah, all right. Sometimes I get a little off
I feel
script.
disrespected.
No, not you, Chris.
Oh,
No.
no. Too soon. Don't jump the shark.
Again.
In the words of my wife, false.
I'm sitting here. You know what? I'm a little freaked out. Here's a tech issue. We've got millionths or thousandths of a second blowing by on the screen, and it's like freaking me out. What happened?
It hurts my epilepsy.
I don't know. It's usually hundreds.
Yeah.
Is
all
it
right.
even? Wow.
Well, if you just multiply it by 10
I feel like we're in the
Okay.
Olympics of recording.
of podcasting.
yeah, just hide it. I don't know that
we're
it's ever
like
there.
the Jamaican-
Before you go on, Chris, though, I
Yeah.
wanted to give a shout. I can't remember if I gave him a shout or not, but Justin Malarkey helped us out with the audio. So
Oh, that's why it's like that now.
if you are no, that's me. But with the audio, it sounds so much better. I don't know if you've noticed, but it does. And Chris, what I was pointing out is how it's flat. It's absolutely quiet.
Right. There's no
there's
like
no
hiss,
wavelength
there's
at all.
no-
Yeah. So which is awesome.
So we all sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Wah, 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 wah.
Well, thank you, Justin Malarkey. And this has been Tech Time in Rome.
Audio tech time.
That's it.
Thanks, Malarkey. What a week. Speaking of tech, hey,
Well, it's been 2 weeks.
What a 2
It's been
weeks.
3 for you.
What a
Almost a month.
hey guys, I'm back. I don't know if you guys know this. I am a Tesla owner,
What?
and
Again.
I own a pool.
yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I became a Tesla driver.
Heyo.
How
After
about
almost
that?
as long as it's been since you've been here on the podcast.
Since you've owned the Tesla.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm really glad you have that back.
Oh my gosh.
I heard the woo, 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 woo last night, and I'm like, oh, is it back? Is it back? Did he get it?
Yeah.
Doc
I
Brown
feel-
pulled into the drive.
I feel like
Yeah.
it looks sleeker now. Like I feel like it looks better.
Well, I will say that they detailed
Upgraded
it,
the paint job.
external and internal. Like
Give a
it
new
is,
wrap.
Ooh.
it is nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
after-
nice that they did the internal.
After 3
detail.
months.
No
I mean,
more kids in
Right?
it, though.
Yeah, it got a little dusty after 3.5
No
months.
more spilling coffee drinks in there.
No more getting hit.
That is the
That'll
one that
ruin
counts.
that detail job.
Yeah, that is the one.
From teenage girls who are not texting.
Such a
I'm glad you have
an
it back, buddy.
experience. But yeah, I mean, and we're going through these things right now that have been really up and down for the past several months. And every once in a while, in the past 6 weeks, let's say, there have been things that have happened that have made it feel a little more like, oh, maybe we're settling back into normal. One of the big ones, it sounds so, I don't know, to my wife it sounds ridiculous, but to me it was huge. We got a new shed.
Oh,
right?
man.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was on back order for
Yeah.
the longest time, longer than we were missing our car.
I love a shed.
And
No shed.
love a good
Yeah.
shed.
You want to get on it though.
Our back porch was a disgusting mess after the tree took our shed out last August.
Oh, so you've
And
been
it-
housing it. Yeah, okay.
And I thought
Yeah.
last August, I was like, but in September,
One
October,
winter.
I'll get what? Not even like I thought I was going
Oh,
to get it. And then fall
You
turned into
ordered it?
winter. I didn't order it, but I was shopping for it
Oh, okay.
constantly. Because when we got our cement slab, I got it a specific size. It's 10 by 8. I couldn't go. I mean, I could go smaller than that. I didn't want to go smaller than that, but I definitely couldn't go bigger than that. So I needed something that was 10 by 8. Finally, something came around a couple months ago, and I snatched it up. They had one in stock. So yay, that was one thing. And now, car's back. Everything feels just a little more normal now. I don't want to like jinx myself, but knock on wood. Yeah, Jay's knocking on the hunter desk. But yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling really good right now. Amy and I have, it's good health news and just everything's a little bit calm right now. So trying to enjoy this little moment,
Yeah, heck yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Man, I'm tired. I know that's been my my go-to for the past several weeks, but I am tired. But I'm tired of all the appointments that I've been to. So I've been to
Oh yeah.
physical therapy
falling
appointments,
apart.
which is working. My knee's feeling better, which is nice. I went and had an EMG done today to figure out what is blocking the circulation down to my hand.
What's an
In my arm.
EMG?
Electromagnetic good.
I don't know.
Gigaphone.
They just told me that's what it was.
Cool.
And
So wait,
yeah,
it did what? It was trying to figure out. You were
it's
trying to figure out
in my arm where it's cutting off circulation into my hand. Because specifically whenever I'm like drumming,
Oh, that's right.
or
I
if
see
I'm
you
like
shaking
doing
your
yard
hand.
work and I'm like have a grip on there for a long time, it gets numb. So I do have a little bit of carpal tunnel.
Electromyography.
Thank you. And it was quite the procedure. Getting
Probably
it done.
delivering water all those years.
Well, that definitely didn't help it.
No.
But drumming, disc golfing, all different things that we do and just life in general. But
And that's
So
just
that's
one of your ailments.
That's exacerbating it?
That sounds,
Those things are exacerbating.
it sounded like you're mocking him.
well, and
No,
then
I feel bad.
That's just one of the things that's wrong with you.
because then there's my elbow that I do have tendonitis, which is also I feel like the tendonitis is accentuating. Is that the right word? The
Exacerbating?
sure, the carpal tunnel. It's making it worse. But I still need to go get an MRI done, which
Gotta
I was
be tired of
scheduled
me.
to.
Tired
I'm
of
just so
appointments.
tired of going to appointments and like getting behind on work and then catching up and then this and that. It's just annoying.
You walked into rehearsal last night,
Yeah.
and I apologize. I was like, "Man, you do not look good."
Yeah, dude.
But
Yeah, I
you
got this like
look-
it's just like my back, my upper left back like locked up.
yeah, you
Yeah.
look stiff and sore, and like you got so much going on,
still am.
limping, and like, oh my gosh, dude,
Yeah.
Hey.
I just feel for you right now.
Who gave you the good compliment that you shared with me today?
I guess he was a neurologist because I was at Premier Neurology. I think that's the name of the place. It was a neurology place.
Owned by Premier?
Sure. And so they do the test, and the woman that did the first part does it's like a electric shock, like a TENS machine kind of thing, but it's just like real sharp. Like it's not like they gradually do it. They just like zap it, and then your fingers twitch because
Your
with
left
different-
foot's moving. They're like, well, that's weird.
yeah, something's not connected right. And then the neurologist comes in, and then he does this thing where he puts like a acupuncture needle in different parts of your arm, and then he has you flex, and it hooks up to this machine, and it makes a noise. So when your muscle is flexed, it makes a noise, and I think he's watching like some kind of wavelength on his monitor to see if there's any like disruption in that noise.
That's how I would do it.
Right. And but he's starting up at the shoulder and was working his way down.
Did it
and-
hurt when you put it in or no?
No, I mean it's just a small needle, and he he puts it in, flex, and then he moves it around and working his way down my arm, and he's like, "Man, is this hurt?" And I was like, "No," and he's like, you have a high pain tolerance, you know? And then he's like back on my bicep.
Just like, if you met my wife, hey-oh.
Yeah. And then he's back on working. He put it in my tricep. And he's like, man, strength is not your problem. You got a tricep like a brick. And I was like, all right, I feel you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Made me feel good. I was like, all right, okay, all right.
He's like, no, we have to amputate.
And then he did say, he was like, if there's one place it's going to hurt, and it's right here, and it's in like the flesh part of your thumb at the bottom of your thumb. He put it in, and I was like, yeah, that was uncomfortable. And then he started moving around there, and it was fine. But yeah, I guess I have a high tolerance for pain, which makes me wonder, like, if somebody had this, like, whatever's going on right now, would they be, like, just in bed, you know? I don't know.
Well, I've said that before, like, with you know, like, I've had asthma off and on my whole life. And it's like, you know, Rachel freaks out when she can't breathe out of both nostrils. And I'm like, I haven't breathed out of both nostrils in my entire life. You know, and, like, sometimes I get a headache. And I'm like, Lex would be like, this is the best day my head has ever felt.
Yeah.
Like, to a degree, things are relative.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it's right now, it's the pain is an annoyance that kind of heightens everything. You know, it fills up your cup, and then you just kind of like everything puts you like
Everything else makes
like Maggie's, like, you know, when she's being frustrating, it's more, you know, and just running around.
That's the most painful thing of your life right now.
It's almost like your cup gets full.
It's almost like your cup gets full, and yeah, it's just very frustrating.
Not that you don't like your daughter Maggie.
No, it's when she does annoying things, it's real annoying.
When I was over here that one Sunday a couple weeks ago, and she was like, after all the birthdays and everything, and she was just laying on you, she's like, I don't want to take a bath. Remember that? Dude,
that's every time.
wow.
It kind of runs together.
I thought you said it runs in the family. I was like, I didn't know that. So for me, it has been a constant evolution of sort of where I am right now. And like, as far as emotionally and schedule wise, you know, we're certainly we're back into the swing of it. You know, we've been talking about, it'll be good to get back into the swing of it. And it started with like last February when I was at the Young Life Regional Conference, and I'm the committee chair for Young Life East Hills, and I was in with all the other committee chairs, and I was just being inspired by a lot of these people and the different things they do for their ministry and supporting the staff and outreach events and fundraising, and I was getting motivated. Then I was like, yeah, these people have jobs and they're Young Life committee chairs. I have a job. I'm a pastor. I'm a Young Life committee chair. I am head coach for 2 sports teams. I announce for 2 others. I help run this podcast. I built, designed, and maintain a disc golf course. And there's something else in there I've completely forgotten. And I was like, I'm a little thin, stretched a little thin.
Yeah.
And what I've realized lately, as we've had some drama that you guys are more than aware of with the volleyball and just different parents, and not even all of it involving me, but I'm the head coach, so it still comes through me. It's like I spin a lot of plates, and that gives me life, and I'm able to do that. But it's when
You do it well.
Thank you. And that's sort of how I'm created. Like, if you just told me to do one thing all day, I would be like, well, why don't I just, you know, do something terrible? Great analogy. But when I start taking hits in one of those categories, it's debilitating, and it rocks the boat.
Yeah.
So we've had some frustrations lately with just some things with the coaching carousel, and that's uprooted a lot of other things. So that's been trying, but it's been good to work through it. And my whole sermon series has been, you know, why is this happening? Well, because God's allowed it. There's a purpose for you in it, but the enemy's trying to get you to do something in that process. And so, of course, I'm going to live it. It's not like God's like, well, he's got this down, Pat. I'm just going to go ahead and give him a pass. So it's been fun to exercise that, even in these last couple of days where there's been some drama. And
that's become your wise old sage persona.
I thought I've been talking about it too much, but since you brought it up, yes.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, like, do you talk about being stretched thin, but also thriving on living these different things, you know, spinning all the plates. Have you gone through other times where you have felt so stretched?
No, I've never identified it as such. I mean, even when I was on Young Life staff, you know, that is a very entrepreneurial job because you're doing ministry, you're raising money, you're training staff or other staff, you're training volunteers, you're all these other things. And I remember in my training, they said, you're spinning a lot of plates. Don't ever let the ministry plate crash, and don't ever let the fundraising plate crash. So, I mean, there's been times in my life, but I've never identified it as such. But as Brian talks about the wise old sage, that I have been striving since vacation to just see things spiritually for what they are, and not just physically, and certainly not just emotionally. Recognizing the emotions, dealing with the emotions, but realizing the spiritual impact of things. And it's been a pretty good coping mechanism / not even coping mechanism, but mode of operations. And it has helped me in a lot of ways, which is pretty funny when you hear well, I'm a pastor and I've decided I'm going to look at things spiritually.
Yeah.
Oh, good job there, Jay. Good one.
Way to turn that on.
But it isn't easy, and that's, I like to be the pastor that says the things that nobody else says. Like, do you really read your Bible? Like, of course you read your Bible. No.
Yeah.
You really read your Bible, or we need to really just ask God for direction every day. Well, of course I do. No, you don't.
Yeah.
I like to say the things that we assume that we do.
Yeah.
And so to that end, boy, am I really filtering everything through that lens. Is this something that God wants me to do, or is the enemy trying to get me to do something?
It is so easy. It's the air we breathe, and you just become so used to dealing with problems and stresses on one level, even if you profess to be doing, seeing through the eyes of a different realm, different level spiritually. It's really hard to do that. I think especially if you're young or a young believer, everything's spiritual, and you're gonna take the world for Jesus. And then as you mature and get older, it does become a fight to continue to keep that perspective.
Indeed, it does.
And I like the wise old sage because
Not going to be surprised when the enemy does what the enemy does. You go, of course.
yeah.
Of course, well, that's another story. But I asked one of my players today, I said, so we talked about a new lineup change. And the girl said, I said, so what do you think? She goes, oh, about what? I said, about the Nord Stream pipeline bursting. Do you think, in fact, it was the United States or some provocateur trying to implicate the United States based on Biden's speech in January when he said one way or the other, it's not going to happen? She just looked at me. I said, it's about your setting.
This was a high school student that asked you that? Wow.
No, I said that to them. And I said, no, about your setting. And she was like, oh, I don't know. And then she said, tell me more about international politics. It's not time yet, young grasshopper.
She said, Jay, you seem like a wise old sage.
Nice.
She said, who's Biden? And why is Nordstrom's closing?
So last week was Abby's birthday, and like we do in Her House, we kind of have a birthday week. And so we did several things last week, and they were fun, and Abby felt very honored and appreciated. And Sunday, we ended up going to the Renaissance Festival. It was the last day of that. It started in August.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
Didn't hear about the...
I know you said you were going. I didn't hear how to go.
Yeah, it was great. We drove out in pouring rain, and I looked at. I thought it was supposed to be nice all weekend, and I was like, well, we'll go Sunday. Either day looks like, I was looking earlier in the week. Either day looks like it was going to be pretty nice, and we drove out pouring rain. But when we got out there, it had stopped. Off and on for about 5 minutes while we were there. It continued to rain, and then after that, the sun came out and it was beautiful.
It was a nice afternoon.
That's
Nice.
the best because it's probably less crowded.
It was
Yeah.
It was also the last day, but I got to give all the participants there, like all the, they have all different kinds of stuff going on, all different acts. Like there was a music act with bagpipes, but drums, and it was really, really cool. They have a jousting thing with like real horses, real jousting. So there's a lot of different things going on. And the energy level and all those performers and everything was still right up there. Like
Last
those first
day, run to the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
They really
great.
do.
I really appreciated it
Because they only do it 1 month out of the year, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like mid-August until and they do it every weekend plus Labor Day. So yeah, it's about a month, maybe like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Unless they travel, I don't know. They could travel to different ones at different times to participate. But
No way of knowing.
unknowable.
Can't be known.
But it's cool because you go out and I don't know what else they do for the rest of the year. Like, what do they do with that place for the?
Oh yeah, it's very. There are permanent structures there.
There are permanent
Right.
structures
yeah,
there.
like you can't like it's that.
Where
it is
is
what
it?
it is.
West Newton.
Yeah, West Newton area.
Turn
down
me
70.
into a newt.
They basically built it in this like little valley off of these fields, these farm fields. Like I don't know if they purchased it from, obviously they did purchase it from somebody at some point, but they've built real, like not full stone castle walls, but
It's pretty
permanent
pretty
enough
legit,
wooden
yeah.
structures that it looks real.
Like where all
you
the
know?
shops are, there's like
Yeah.
different,
That's crazy.
indoor shops. Like, do they do like Halloween stuff, like hay rides and stuff? Like
I don't know.
after
You'd
it's
think they
over?
would do
That's a good
something.
There's something with
question.
that land.
Yeah.
yeah, because it's perfect for that.
Well, it's really cool because when we first got there, Lex and Abby were shopping, like looking at dresses, and Ethan and I we did that for about a minute, and we're like, all right, let's go do something else.
Throw an
And-
axe, throw a
yeah,
knife.
But we were standing
That's the
out.
fun stuff.
We were standing out there, and it was raining a little bit on us. And I was like, "Can you imagine living like this? Like being back in that time, or any other time in history besides our past?
Wouldn't want to.
I wouldn't want to either.
But just visit it for a little bit.
Sure.
Like that's
Like,
why
That's
people
camp-
love to
that's
do this
like
sort of
the
thing.
half
camping.
an hour,
Yeah, I like camping.
maybe.
I like to come back here.
But all the years, sorry, good.
I don't know. It's simpler times.
Sure.
You're dead at 30. You're dead at 20.
Yeah. Just go
Like,
and
I'd have
see
been-
Jesus earlier.
I'd have been dead 3 times in my life.
But I mean, yeah.
Less paperwork.
I feel like if I was meant to be in that time, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Well, sure. It's not like they were superhuman.
Well,
Right.
that's one of the things Ethan and I talked about. I was like, what would you have been? And I don't remember what he said. A young
like a
young
druid.
lad, young lad warrior. He was like, you'd have been a bartender.
You're like, hey, oh yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ethan is so gloriously nerdy.
Yeah.
In his way, I love it. He came up to me the other day and said, "Hey, you a Lord of the Rings fan?"
Oh yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I am." He's like, "Hey, I bought Sting." Like, and anybody else like. The musician? Like, what are you talking about? But no, Sting is a sword from Lord of the Rings. His
Yeah.
nickname is Sting. So he bought a replica that day.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up because
Okay.
that's where I was going to end my story here, because we had a great time, especially Ethan and I, for 99% of this this time that we were out there. We were only out there for like 2 hours, and we all wanted to go, but Abby especially. It was her birthday, but then after like an hour and a half, she was like, "I'm done."
Yeah.
We're like,
nice.
"All right."
That's okay.
But yeah, we did axe throwing. I ate the turkey leg. We did all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then as we were heading out, as we were there, I was talking to Ethan because last year we spent so much money there, and I told
Yep.
the kids as we were
It
like
was a lot of
walking
money.
in, I was like, "You guys have a $75 cap on something to buy, and I'll match you halfway. You have to pay
Yeah.
for the other, half of it. So but up to $75.
That's still pretty
Wait,
gracious there.
they're putting in 37.50. You're putting in. Okay, I thought it was maybe 75.
Well,
75.
I said I'll put in 35, and I said, Ethan, you put in 40s, and then he tried to negotiate and flip it around.
and you're like 25.
I was like, no. I was like, this isn't a democracy. This is a.
And to be
anyways.
fair, they do have like nice items. Like
They do
They
have-
have like
they have
good,
very nice
good
items.
leather things that are like legit handmade
like,
and stuff.
yeah, like legit artisans and blacksmiths and yeah.
Well, so we ended at the Forge, which
Mm-hmm.
has knives and swords, and we were. Ethan comes up to me and he was like, "Hear me out. I want to get a sword, but it's $100."
$76.
I was like 75. I was like, we talked about $75, bud. He was like, and like he started to shut down a little bit. He started to just go into kind of, I call it robot mode, and I was like, do you really? Because he has a multitude of swords.
There's a lot.
And I said, do you really want to spend that much money on another sword? And he was like, it's fine. Let's just go then.
Oh gosh, you hate
Just
that.
say fight harder.
No, I said, "Are we really? Do you really want to end this like this?" And he's like, "It's fine, whatever." And so I just walked away from him. I was like, "Dude,
Oh
if
man,
because
It's like taking the kid to the circus, and you spend $200, and then they're like, "Can I get cotton candy?"
We're
You're
on
like,
the-
"No," and they're throwing a fit the whole way home.
Ocean City on the Ferris wheel. Are we gonna do? Are we gonna do the water
never
slides?
did get to do the water slide.
So it was that thing, like, and I was so disappointed because he and I were having such a good time.
Yeah.
We were talking about like,
One
hey,
thing.
if the apocalypse happened or the grid went down and we were here, like, would we take over the village? Like, we started talking about, like, you know, like what would happen in
Not
that
without that sword.
and he already, and he already knew the rules of the
Already
day.
knew. We
Already
talked about it
knew.
multiple times. So I felt extremely disrespected.
Oh, baby.
Did not respect the family
snap.
rules. Well, you have to close the story.
It's the long game though. He's saving up all
Because you
these
got the
swords.
sword.
I walked off, and the next thing I know, I saw
He
them.
walks by you whistling.
Yeah.
With the sword.
Well,
Next thing I know,
it's just-
the shopkeeper's chasing Ethan.
You're like, that's
Ethan
my
turns
boy.
around and stabs him with the sting. But
escalated quickly.
We unfortunately ended with he and I not talking the whole entire ride home, and because I was so
no.
hot,
Oh, sure.
I was so upset.
I'd be yeah.
and like at the same time, like
with you,
I
man.
have the adult side of me, like be the bigger adult, be the peacemaker, and I was like, no, f that. And eventually we made up, but you know, at the end of the day, and eventually I went down. I mean, we're talking like 8 o'clock at night at this point. I went downstairs. I was like, hey, so can I see your sword? Because I hadn't even looked at it. I didn't want to look at it.
Well, how did he get it?
He bought it. He ended up buying it
With his money.
with his money, and Lex, I guess, giving tacit assent. You know, like I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even ask. I like at that point.
Now
I
he's,
was
going, now he's going home hot.
He's going on hot again from here.
Where did he get the money?
No, I'm good.
He
with it
bursts
now.
into Ethan. I gotta talk
That's
to
my
you.
sword. That's my sword now.
It's fine.
Got
Whatever.
to get your respect back.
Yeah,
That's right.
What are we talking about tonight?
Respect.
That's lucky.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Brian manufactured that whole story
I
just
did-
so he would get
Halfway through it, I was
disrespected.
like, wait a second. This could tie in really well.
Well, we have been going over each of the top 10 emotional needs, one by one, taking a deep dive. And each week we get here and we go, I don't know how we're going to fill a half hour to 45 minutes on an emotional need. And then we go 45 minutes to an hour. I don't think there's a person in the room that thinks this is going to be difficult to do.
No.
It is, to me, the number one most spoken about emotional need alongside attention.
I'm glad we finally got to an important one.
I will say, out of the 100 plus people we've had take the questionnaire, respect is oftentimes pretty high on the list.
It's just not, it is thrown by the wayside.
Wait, you said the most talked about, because comfort is the most.
We
needed.
talk about. I'm saying in the world,
Uh-huh.
if you hear somebody say, I just don't get enough acceptance. I don't feel like I'm loved enough.
Oh, I don't get
when
no
I make
respect.
mistakes. It's all about
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Right.
don't you disrespect me. Actually, we don't hear a lot about respect. We hear a lot about disrespect.
Respect.
But it's definitely one that is widely recognized. Like people get it.
And it's not going to take long to define it.
Yeah.
So what we do is it really helps us understand it. If you have a high need for it, it'll help you understand yourself. If you have a loved one with a high need for respect, this will help you understand them and love them better and really improve your relationship. Obviously, you probably have a boss who's got some modicum, some amount of a need for respect. This will help you be a better employee. This will help you love your children better. So this is really, I think, a great episode for that. And we begin with a simple definition that it is valuing and regarding one another highly, treating one another as important. It's so funny, even as I read that, treating one another as important. To me, it's almost like not really seeing them as important, but treating them like they're important. Honoring
That's funny.
one another.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that, boys? Make sense? What would you add? What would you take away?
Yeah, I would say for me, part of the definition would be knowing that you see me as a human being and not an object, not a ends to your means. It's actually seeing me for who I am. And yeah.
Well, so to a degree, it's almost, you're even saying, this is nice, valuing regarding one another highly, treating one another as important, honoring one another. You're saying, or at least just considering me to be a human.
Yes. Because I mean, especially now with social media and the comments, we just aren't treating each other even as humans anymore. We're just objects. We're just a construct. And so for me, when I feel like somebody's truly looking at me as valued, like that's so important to me.
Right. But even again, that's bonus. You're saying, because if you think about it, people are treated as sexual objects.
Yeah.
People are treated as pawns in games. People are treated as ways to make money. you're nothing more than a marketing item,
Commodity.
for a lot of commodity for a lot of people.
Right.
So you're saying that the bar is lowered for the lack of respect that is in our world today, in your mind.
I would say so.
I think it's a great definition.
And I
Yeah.
think it speaks to, and I know we're going to talk more about this later, but like to Brian's, the impact that respect has on you, Brian, like when it's not there, it is, for you, it's a dehumanizing feeling. Yeah.
Well, and I think, like you said just a second ago, I do think that we're always like, oh, things have changed and our society's coming apart. And if you just take a step back 2 generations, a lot of things worked a little bit better because people did still have some semblance of respect for
Base
each other
level of
as human
respect
beings.
for life in general,
Right.
and as human beings.
Correct. At least,
A handshake meant something.
right.
Your word was your bond.
Yeah. Now everything's just a throw. Everything just seems to be a cheap throwaway.
Almost sounds like we're old curmudgeons,
Yeah, but it's
just thinking
true.
but we're not wrong.
We're
You're not wrong.
So this is going to be a deep dive here into number 2. Who wants to take it?
I'll take it. What causes it?
Ooh.
A, having it met constantly as a child, or B, not having it met as a
Where
child.
have I heard that before?
Every single other emotion.
Every dadgum emotional need.
But it still blows my mind every time.
But it's true.
It is.
If your parents crapped all over you and said you were a worthless piece of crap, guess what? You might have a real high need for security. Well, probably that too, but for respect. But if you may not. It's wherever and however you were raised. This is what grew out of it.
So how is it different than belonging?
So belonging is being loved, being valued because of the role you play in somebody's life. So if I say, hey, that's my wife, that's Mrs. Mitlow, and because you are my wife, you are loved by me, you are honored by me, and I value you because you're my wife. So it's the role that you play in somebody else's life. That's why they love you. With respect, it's because, as Brian said, because you're human and you deserve the base level respect. You didn't earn it because of bloodline or friendship or grouping or anything else. And one guy that I was teaching this to in a pre-marriage teaching, I believe, said, the difference is easy for me. And I've shared this before on the podcast, but not everybody's listened to every one of our podcasts.
Wait, the difference between belonging and respect?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
He said, I knew what it meant to be, let's say his name was Miller. I knew that my need for belonging was met. We were Millers. We were important. We were achievers. He said, but I did not have my need for respect met in our family because if I got a B, we would get put on the refrigerator, and I was told Millers don't get Bs. And I was ridiculed and punished for the entire time until I got another grade. So there, I think, is a good deal of difference between the two.
Yeah.
And as we move forward, we like to say, okay, well, how can you meet somebody's need for respect? Okay, you got that person who always needs respect. And we made a big, long list, but we start off
this is a long list.
with we start off with some generalities.
So most often it is enough to simply not disrespect.
I think in our world today,
Dist.
the lack of disrespect is respect. There's so many people
Yeah.
being disrespected out there. You just simply, let somebody into traffic who should be let into traffic. You're
Right.
actually not doing anything,
Right.
but following simple, mores,
Right.
customs.
Etiquette.
Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, right.
Like
Yeah.
right nowadays, that is something.
Yeah.
That is something.
And
And the flip side is when you do that, you go out of your way to let somebody and they don't even acknowledge you.
And then I take a
and
picture
then
of your
you
feet.
feel disrespected. Yeah, but I read that just a little bit differently in the sense that I feel like, because I do have a high need for respect, but I generally am okay with it not being so visible maybe a lot of the time, as long as I'm not being disrespected, which I mean falls into the same categories as you were talking about, but like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm trying not to disrespect you, but I really don't understand what you're saying.
Like, I'm thinking like, okay, at work, like I can have interactions with people where there's no respect or disrespect happening.
So is that meeting your need for respect?
That's what I'm saying.
But when you're,
well, I'm
but
saying
when,
it's
well,
not
when- well,
taking
it's
anything
contrasted
from me.
when
It's
you're
not
you're
taking.
disrespected.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes very apparent how big your
Yes.
need for respect is.
Yes.
But when when it's neutral, or even if somebody is respecting you, it might feel a little good, but it doesn't make the impact on you that the disrespect would.
Or
make
I'm not
on you.
feeling a lack of respect simply because people aren't verbally respecting me or outwardly like showing me these.
They're not heaping positive respect on you.
Yeah.
And you're okay with that. But when it's
Compared to
when you're disrespected,
Yeah.
you instantly know.
It's
It's
it's a little confusing. I
relate to
appreciate
what
it.
Chris is saying.
Well, but my point is, we're saying, how can we meet somebody's need for respect? And the point in number one is,
Yeah.
you
To
don't
not
disrespect them, and you're saying
That's
what?
exactly what I'm saying.
But you said you read it differently.
Well, as opposed to like just, well, you know what? It is okay because I heard your traffic analogy and I'm like, well, that's not exactly. But I guess it does sort of fall in the lines of, like you said, it's just somebody doing what they're supposed to do.
It's sort of,
So
as
it
long
does
as you
fall
don't
in-
disrespect me, I'm assuming you're respecting me.
Right.
Right.
Oh, it is the same.
There we go. Man. Hey, I respect that we got through that.
Might edit that out on the evergreen.
One might also look at it quite simply in saying,
The golden rule. I do a little song with kids at the beginning of the school year.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't sing it.
Oh, yeah. Here we are back at school. Always remember the golden rule. And then we have a little conversation. We play it on instruments and we have a good time.
I like it.
I like it too.
What is the golden rule?
Yeah, in case you don't know, it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And at our school, it's nice because we follow the 3 T's at our school. Yeah. It's take care of yourself, take care of others, and take care of property. Those are the 3 T's that we live by
Why
in
isn't it
our.
the 3 takes?
That's too complicated. But this falls very nicely into that, especially obviously taking care of others. But you're also thinking about how would I want to be treated, so it's taking care of yourself through all that, and that's
You
how we
think of
tie
the
it
number of people
together.
who don't do that,
Oh yeah.
who treat others far worse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I go back to my coaching thing. A parent came up to me last night, and I sort of referenced it. Like, if I would approach her the way she approached me, it would have been Armageddon. I mean, I would have been, oh gosh. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Not enough people do that.
Well, what are some tangible ways that
We got
can
a
meet?
list.
Yes, we do.
We got a list. We got a list.
Allowing someone to speak and have input.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so important. Well, it's kind of the same thing that I wrote down here. Actually, when I feel disrespected, it's because someone is talking over me or trying to finish my sentence. So allowing somebody to speak and hear their input, that's very important to me. That is very respectful.
Right. And these are mirror items. This is how you meet somebody's need. Conversely, if you don't do it, well, it's taking.
Yeah, and your thoughts have value, and that's right. That's where that respect
Right.
comes from. Yeah.
Again,
So therefore, you must.
you're seeing me
Right.
as a human. You're valuing what I'm saying. You're not just running over me with all your crap.
To simply give somebody proper space, whether it be personal space, space in lines, traffic,
So
whatever
this
else.
is physical.
Physically
space.
speaking. Well,
Yeah.
but also if number one, to a degree, is conversational space.
Right.
This would be physical space.
I like that because it's like I have felt that before. Like, why am I invisible? Like, why am I?
When someone keeps bumping into you,
Yes.
oh,
Or just
The worst.
to the
yeah,
moon.
or you're cut in line, which even as adults it happens, like because people aren't always paying attention or whatever, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
In a few weeks, we're going to talk about like going into how we personally can identify how a need gets met. Because I do have a high need for respect, but it doesn't apply to traffic. Like, I'm so chill. Like, as long as you don't make me put my brakes on, we're cool as far as cutting out in front of me, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But coming out of the high school, there is a turning lane on the Frankstown Road. And number one, this has nothing to do with respect. Drives me insane when somebody doesn't use the turning lane. So they just keep their left blinker on for an hour and a half. But when we'll get into the turning lane in a car, now mind you, it's a red light. And a car will speed up and hurry up and get behind
To
the car in
not
front of
let you
them.
get in.
So I can't get over.
Oh gosh. Straight
I-
to 10.
But it doesn't.
Oh,
It's
for
ju-
me it does.
like, I'm cool with it, but yet I still have to make a point. And the other day, this lady did it. And so I pulled up so that I was just into her visible line. And I said to Bella, look at my face. Am I expressing just enough condescending disdain? I said, I don't want to appear aggressive because I'm literally looking like she might pull a gun. Okay, well, there's nobody behind me. I can back up. I'm doing all the math. But I'm just staring at her like, just with this condescending disdain look on her face. And she looked for like half of a second, like, you got 10 feet. You got 10 feet in front of me.
Yeah.
Yay. You're
Yeah.
going to be just fine. But it didn't really bother me.
Oh, frustrating.
Indeed.
Not overbearing someone with your views, input, words, loud talking.
Now that's also almost a double negative, but you can meet their needs
Right.
by, it's sort of like back to number one, but not overbearing the situation,
Again,
Letting it breathe.
Giving space.
letting it breathe a little.
Seeking the advice or counsel of someone.
Yeah.
Think about that. Somebody comes up to you. Hey,
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
I love when somebody asks me a question and like, yeah.
And we all have those people that like, you're like, nobody ever goes to them
Yeah.
because nobody respects them.
Right.
So I think I can.
And then
work-
if somebody does go to them, I don't maybe
now
respect
you
the
don't even
person.
respect
I
that
don't
person.
respect that person.
You're like, why don't you come to me? But I think that's something I could do more often. I don't do it a lot.
What's that?
Go to somebody and say, hey, what do you think about this?
You personally go to somebody else.
I don't think I do it enough.
Huh.
At least on purpose. Like, it doesn't hurt you. I mean, all these things, meeting people's emotional needs, cost us next to nothing, and yet makes people's days. And so, why I wouldn't go to your father and say, "What do you think we ought to do about this?" Because I already know what I want to do about this.
Right.
Now, of course, if I ask him, then he tells me, and then I go, "Yeah, we're not going to do that." So there is that.
Yeah.
Giving one credit for what they have accomplished.
Wouldn't that be appreciation?
It depends. You appreciate what somebody does for you. But if I say, you know what? You two, you're self-made men. I think that's incredible how you guys have, you didn't do the college route. You didn't do the typical thing. You have just grinded away and you guys are successful. You make a good living and you provide for your family, for your families. Respect.
Right. Yeah, because it's not benefiting you.
Not at all.
Right.
I'm not appreciating.
Yeah.
I respect you by appreciating what you've accomplished. But the
Yeah.
need is respect.
Right.
Because you walk away going, I am a self-made man. He gets it. And you feel respected.
Yeah.
If I go, wow, you guys didn't even go to college and yet somehow you've scraped together a career.
That's
Yeah.
disrespected.
See?
Yeah, right. Speaking of another's accomplishments, not in their presence.
Ooh, but word of it has to get back to you then, right?
You'd hope so.
Okay.
Or else why are you saying it? I mean, don't tell Eric this, but I think he's a great guy.
Yeah, but that makes sense. You hear, oh, someone was telling me about the thing that you accomplished or
chest
whatever.
puffs
Yeah,
up.
like
You're like,
really,
that's
that
right,
is
all right, okay.
awesome.
That's what I'm talking about.
Standing up for another when they are present or not present.
I think that shows great respect.
You got somebody's back, whether they're there or
Yeah.
not. That's integrity. That is, that's a big one.
They believe in you. They believe in you enough to say, no, you know what? That's not the Brian that I know or whatever. Yeah.
Funny you chose Brian in that regard. But you're like, that's not the Brian I know. Like, of all the people that could be someone speaking bad of them, why did you pick Brian?
Because he was the last one talking. So
Makes
I used
sense to
him
me.
as a-
But I think even if you're wrong, like
That's
if,
not
say
the
if,
Jay
if
I know.
Brian's wrong, but I'm going to stick up for him because that's my guy.
Oh, I
Like
see
even
what you're
that,
saying.
no, I'm saying that's even better.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also good. Or hey, that's my guy, and he's right. You better shut up.
Yeah.
That's good respect both ways. I'm just banging your
That's
outline
all right.
today.
Keeping confidential things confidential. That's it's such a respectful thing because you're putting your trust into that other human being with something that is probably a little bit vulnerable to you, and so you know that they're respecting that vulnerability, and that you gave them that responsibility, and if they handle it well, that's
respect.
Respect.
There is, I don't know if you guys know this, but on social media, a lot of people like to post like little words of inspiration.
What?
Yeah. And I saw one the other day. The person that gossips to you gossips about you. And I'm like, of course, but that's brilliant. So don't be that person.
Keep your word.
Word is your bond.
Makes sense. Give honest feedback and criticism. Jay's the master of this.
Whoa.
But it's like
It ain't me.
obviously there can be times where criticism can be taken very negatively, right? But if you are, we've spoken so many times of open, honest, and vulnerable communication, and when you are a person that someone knows carries themselves that way with open and honest communication, then when they speak to you, even if there is some criticism in there, I feel like there's just a level of respect that they're caring about you, that they're talking to you, that they're...
And I think that one also speaks to knowing you. So again, it goes back to the knowing you is more than an object or whatever. They are confident enough, and I guess I'm thinking, like, I just had the phrase, I respect this person's opinion. I respect your opinion. And that does speak to, I respect your opinion because you've proven yourself over a period of time in my life. So maybe that's a little bit different than giving honest feedback and criticism.
Well, if you think about it, if I don't tell you the truth, if one doesn't tell somebody else the truth, I don't respect you enough that you can handle it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to lie to you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be honest with your feedback. Not that this is the coaching episode, but I tell players all the time, don't get upset when I coach you. Be upset when I stop coaching you. When I just realize you're not going to get any better. We've been there a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I respect you enough to tell you the truth. Now, I'm also going to respect you enough by not stepping all over your emotions in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very underrated one that can also be misused.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm just trying to show you respect. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, that didn't do it.
Responding in a timely fashion, invites, phone calls, emails, etc. I can be so guilty of disrespecting people in this way. Like I should say mostly in my past, but when that phone calls, man, when I see that sitting there and I think of family and like how I put off family phone calls all the time. Like I'm the worst at it. I'm the worst. And I just, when I
you mean no disrespect.
Well,
of course, I mean no disrespect.
And I was going to bring up Ben because Ben will just completely forget. Like he'll just we talked about this in the past. Your son Ben, he just forgets. It's not a thing for him. He has no. It's just not in his wheelhouse.
I think we talked about that when he was on.
But he doesn't disrespect you.
Right.
He's not intentionally trying to disrespect you.
But the result is,
you're still disrespecting.
Yes. So when I see that and I think about how I am disrespecting, like my mom or whoever, my sister, like when I don't return their call right away or something, man, that's convicting right there.
But that's also a function of the emotional cup and our emotional health in totality. Because if you have not set up proper borders, which is here's what I'm telling you you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So if somebody texts you, and I know this isn't the case, 15 times a day, well, you're not disrespecting them. The problem isn't you're disrespecting them by not returning it. The problem is you didn't set up a good border saying, look, I can only answer one text a day. So I'm only ever going to respond to you once a day. And then the boundary is yourself, which is, okay, I'm not going to respond. And that's okay. Does that make sense? There's more than just that. It's not like you're a disrespectful person. There's other things going on in those relationships at times.
Right.
But then there's times you're being disrespectful.
Right.
If you're not going to return those. One of my favorite, back to the Ben thing, we do occasionally point out that you may be a little slow with the return of a text or a call. Mm-hmm. And the one day, I forget, we were in the church and you needed something. Oh, it was Good Friday.
And Ben was going home to get something, but then you needed something else.
And you kept calling him and you're like, he's not picking up his phone.
I
can't believe it. And everybody else in the room, their eyes are bleeding and they're just dying because you're just like, that is so disrespectful.
The best thing was then he called the house. He's like, nobody's answering at the house.
I like this one. Show gratitude to not communicate entitlement. And I think that's such an interesting one where when I hear gratitude or when I give gratitude, it's a wonderful thing because it does show such a level of respect. However, when there is no gratitude and it's like you just expected something from me.
Entitlement.
I went out of my way to do this thing for you or whatever. I went out of my way to do this thing, and you just think that's just the way it should be.
It's one of my favorite things is to thank people for not necessarily great things, and they go, really? And I'm like, hey, I can see that. I appreciate that. You know, and again, it's appreciation, but I'm giving them respect by appreciating them.
And I think like this one comes, I think most people could relate to this one in the context of a family or a roommate scenario where, hey, I cleaned the bathroom. Okay, so did you clean the bathroom? Did you take the time to clean the bathroom? Did you do the dishes? I did the dishes. You know, and that's, you think those dishes are like you say, Jay. What's the?
You left this for somebody else to do?
Let me introduce you to somebody else.
Pointing at myself.
Right. So to me, again, it speaks to a level of, okay, you see what I've done. You see me as a human being. You saw the effort that I put into this, and you're acknowledging that. That makes me feel great. When you don't, dang, man, you're just going to take that for granted?
Right.
You didn't do it.
Like, what are you, a servant or something? You know?
Right.
Like, man.
I think another way that we can meet people's need for respect is to communicate the affirmation of another person. And simply just what that means basically is, you know what, Eric, you're a good dad. I respect the fact that you're a dad and you're a good dad. You know, Chris, you're a great friend. You're a good teacher. Brian, you know, you're a husband to be exemplified. Man, that's awesome. And you're like, oh, he respects me. Oh, how about that? So I think it's important to do that. Brian, you had some ideas.
He's like, buckle up.
Yeah.
And that's it for this week.
we're already-
Next week is Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're already at 50 minutes here. Accurately understanding or being understood when communicating an idea. When I know that you've heard me and that you can articulate back to me what I said, that really I really value that because it tells me that you've paid attention to me.
And that we respected you enough to listen.
Right, exactly. Number two, anytime someone shows even the slightest bit of depth and understanding me as a human. This is what I talked about initially. People are so distracted, so surface, so guarded. But when someone breaks the surface even slightly in showing that they see me in a more meaningful way, that's very respectful to me.
I like it.
Yeah. And I jotted down some examples too of how it's met for me. And again, we've touched on them. So asking questions or listening when I speak. So like if someone comes to me, like and work came to mind. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, you know what, are you?" I don't even have a great situation, but something where they have come to me to ask something.
Oh.
I'm like, okay. I feel very respected that they could have gone to somebody else or they could whatever, but they were like, you know what, I'm going to go ask Davidson because he probably knows, right?
Yeah.
Or, just generally, listen when somebody is speaking to you. When you are talked over, when I am talked over or just, my response is skipped over in a conversation or whatever, and this ties in with something you were saying, Brian.
That's what I put in my examples of how it's stolen.
Yeah. Oh, later on. Yeah. So that definitely would be a way of losing that respect. But then I would just one different one, getting some compliments like really hits me, and it can be so surface level.
Go ahead, because I wonder if you're going to say what I think you're going to say.
Surface level, something physical, just feeling noticed. Like I'm growing my beard back right now, right? And so when somebody says,
Like my wife.
yeah, oh, Rachel loves the beard, right? So when I'm growing it back in the fall, she's always like, oh, you're growing your beard back.
She said it last night.
Yeah, and her line is always, oh, you're going to be a real boy.
Well, she doesn't let it go too far.
Yeah, which is lighthearted, but that's fine. Like for me, I still feel like, I'm noticed. Like that's a nice thing. And then beyond just a physical, obviously, if I'm getting a compliment for like, hey, you did a really great job. Like, oh, I had a kindergarten teacher the other day, because part of one of my duties this year is like dropping in and helping with kindergarten classes from time to time. And she said, you should be a kindergarten teacher. You're really good with them. Like that's just a nice little affirmation of respect. I love it.
Brian, I want you to take a look a little bit at your examples for how do we steal it, because I think you're looking at when people take it from you, whereas stealing it is when when your need isn't being met. Mm-hmm. And so you go out to get your respect. Mm-hmm. See the difference? So I think these are more examples of how people take respect from you.
Yeah, when we steal, like we're trying to steal it from somebody, and you're saying
You
mine.
haven't- yeah,
You're
haven't
having
got
it. This is happening to you.
Right. So, do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay. Number one, when somebody steals my story and tries to one-up me, again, I don't respect your story, or your story doesn't compare to what I'm going through.
Well,
like,
because-
are you going to validate me in my story? And if so, great. And then I want to hear your story too. That's awesome. And I will validate you in yours.
So once again, they're not looking at you as a human.
Right.
They're looking at you as a stepping stone to their
Exactly.
story or a good introduction.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Talking over me. You're telling me that you're more important than me, that your idea or opinion matters more than mine. Number 3, C, trying to finish my sentence. You literally have no idea where I'm going with my thoughts, not responding or belittling my response. For example, in a group chat I used to be on, every time I contributed to the conversation, I either got no direct response, the response was contradictory, or the subject was changed as if I wasn't even talking. Every time, it seemed. Changing the subject in particular steals that respect because it tells me that my line of thought isn't important or valid, even to deem a response.
That is, I mean, that's such a brilliant way of saying how we have been disrespected. I
Yeah.
mean,
And then I've got one more.
oh, please go.
When people are on devices, when they should be paying attention.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it happened to me tonight. Yep. It's very annoying.
Anyways, I'm
Yeah.
No, and I
agree.
I grieve the one you said just before that with the group chat. I think that's
Yeah.
happened to so many people. When I went to a different church that I wasn't the pastor of, I was the thread killer. Like somebody would post on Facebook and it'd be like 15 comments, and then I would comment, done. Like they wouldn't reply and nobody else would comment after. I started doing it just for fun. I was
Yeah.
like, it'd be like a happy birthday to a 100-year-old lady, and I'd make sure I got in early, and then nobody after me. I was like, I don't even know what I had done, but I'm like, yeah, she's not getting
That old
happy
lady's
birthday.
like, man, nobody likes me."
Nobody cares. I thought we could take a second, if we wanted, and just look at in general, like ways that we're going to be talking about in the future. Hey, how can we meet this need? But how have we specifically, because I think it's different for different people, do we experience disrespect in our lives? I jotted some down for you guys. Brian, this is obviously something you're passionate about. You've already given general examples. But if you guys want, you don't have to. But like for me, it's happened now pretty much in the last calendar year of coaching, where 3 different parents have come to me with a complaint. And it depends. Like the one complaint was legitimate. My exact words to her were, "Your concern is noted. It is not shared. And so no further discussion is necessary in this regard." So, I mean, okay, it's a concern. I don't share that concern. But then 2 other parents have said to me, "I don't want my child to be punished because I approached you." And in that, I take great disrespect. And I'm pretty hard to disrespect because I don't know why. It just doesn't, maybe I don't always value other people's opinions enough. But I thought, you're telling me that I am going to be a bad coach and I'm going to take
You're going to
something
be
out
such
on
a
your
little
child
person, such
and
a
do this
vindictive little person.
And again, that comes back to the quote, "You accuse me of what you are." Like, no, you're trying to give your kids special treatment. So you assume I'm going to give them negative treatment. But that's just one way where I really don't get offended. But that I'm like, really, you think I'm that bad of a coach that I'm going to take this out on your kid? Nah.
Right. Do you want to go or I can?
Well, I don't know if I know the word that you put.
Usurping?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
Taking your power.
Someone saying, you're raising
Superseding
Maggie
you.
this way. Well, I think you ought to do it this way
Oh yeah, that's bothersome to me.
because they're not respecting you as a parent.
And also, I do share Brian's needing to be heard. Like, I don't need you to agree with me, but I need you to hear me out.
Right,
And
at
hear my
least-
side of the story.
right.
We can walk away disagreeing. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that you hear where I'm coming from and my side of the story or the way I see it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because
And I don't have a high need for respect.
Oh, you don't?
It's
Okay.
not like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a mid, but it's not like one of my top
Right.
3.
Like mine's highly specific.
Yeah.
Mine is skyrocket high, man. It is like crazy. And in this category, how have we been disrespected? I had a brutal junior high experience in a lot of ways. And even into high school, some very brutal moments where in middle school, it was teased, butt of jokes, picked on in a variety of ways, mostly by people who I would not have called my friends, right? But even within my friend group, it was like I was often the butt of jokes, right? Like I was, and then in high school, it wasn't the same, but there were still moments where I was like, man, we're supposed to be friends, and this is how you were treating me. Like, it was very painful. So,
And it was like, oh, because I want to be clear on this, because like, we joke with you a lot,
oh yeah,
and you're fine with it.
No.
But this was
Oh, I don't think so. I think there's times we go too far.
there are times, sure,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
That's why I'm shaking my head this whole time, like, hey, the old butt of the joke over here.
Yeah.
Ah, it goes back to junior high.
Yeah.
We are terrible.
I think Chris, I'm similar in that respect. I think that's one of the reasons that you and I are higher on respect, in that we are similar in that. Because I mean, my junior high was brutal. I've talked about it before too. I don't like to be embarrassed anymore. Like when I feel embarrassed, that ties in with my sense of respect.
Right.
And I think that very much was formed, during those times
Yes.
where you're just being relentlessly bullied and cut down
And what's funny is if we get to know you, because it's not like we don't make fun of you,
yeah, right.
but because we treat you as a human being, we get to know you and know, where do you need respect? Where do you not need respect?
yeah. Where's the line?
Again, it
Right.
comes back
Yeah.
to that relationship. That
I mean,
learn-
your nickname, Big Fat Goalie.
yeah.
You don't walk around.
Oh, I
like,
love that. I wear it as a badge of honor.
Right, because that one doesn't bother you. But
Right.
we know other things would,
Right.
because we've treated you like a human being and we gotten to know you.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of my emotional needs go to guilt. This one goes to anger. Like, man, I get hot in half a second. Like, if it's a traffic thing, even like I am like straight to disrespect, right? And I think a lot of people
Straight
get
to
that way.
disrespect.
But
Straight to jail.
like so easily. Even like, and so this is where I was going to tie it into what Eric said, where you said like we could walk away disagreeing, and that's fine. I just want to be heard. I have a history of, if you disagree with me, I am so angry and feel so disrespected. Like, and I'm much better now, but I have a history of feeling that way, of feeling like, if you can't see things my way, like I am,
If I haven't convinced you to see
so
things my
upset.
way,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I guess that's
You are
yeah.
you are not validating my line of reasoning, so therefore I feel like crap because you're not validating my line of reasoning.
I guess, yeah. And I'm not. It's obviously unhealthy, but that's
Well, like
where
my
I've
line
gone.
to that parent, which was, "Oh, I understand your concern, but that is not shared." You'd be like, "No, you have to understand why I don't.
Right.
I am not concerned
like
by this."
What do you mean it's not shared? Like
And if you're no, wait, I'm saying, but from my perspective.
Okay.
It's like you as a teacher, a parent complains to you,
Yeah.
and says, "You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong," or "I have this concern." Like you wouldn't say, "Well, I understand your concern, but I don't share that concern," and the fact that they're still angry would drive you crazy. Whereas I'm like, "Well, that's on you now."
You would need to explain, like you would need to outline. This is
Why
why.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Right. Certainly, as the parent, that wouldn't be okay either.
Right.
Like you would be like, "No, you need to share my concern."
That's where I took it. Yeah.
And if we get disrespected long enough,
Yeah.
and we don't get that need met, we steal it. And that's what we're talking about. In any emotional need, when you don't get it met, the obvious example is, the person that never gets hugged, they go around punching each other in the shoulder, grabbing, hugging, playing physical, that kind of stuff. But that happens with respect as well. And one of the very first ways we do that is demanding it abrasively. You will respect me. I mean,
Yes.
there's nobody that gets respected less.
Yeah. I roll my eyes at that person.
Cartman from South Park. You will respect my authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got to say it, you don't get it, and guess what? It ain't going to feel good once you say that. That's the thing about stealing the emotional need. It never satiates you.
Right. And I made a note with that one where I go there, especially when the kids were maybe a little younger. But it's parenting. Like, I wouldn't say that to an adult, like, well, you better respect me. But I mean, that's a sort of a classic cliche parenting line, like, hey, there needs to be a level of respect around here, right? Like, I deserve to be respected. You cannot talk to me that way, So that's where I go there is with my kids.
Gosh, that is, not to talk about an outline that I created, but it's so brilliant. Like, if you got to say it, you don't, like, I can't fathom saying to my family or to the team that I coach, hey, you will respect me. Like, because you're going to respect me. Like, that's not even, but if you're not getting that respect, then you're going to be like that drowning person who's reaching out.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, and it certainly happens when we're parenting. because you are drowning.
Oh yeah, right. Your kids are not
You won't
doing.
respect me.
Speaking of seeing someone as human, like I think we've seen our kids and we're like they're not human. What are they doing right now? This is not how a person acts.
And they sure don't see you as human sometimes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, vice versa.
My children are gifts from God.
Speaking of one's status or accomplishments.
Oneself's.
You're just
Like
bragging.
boasting about yourself. Yeah.
You're just
Okay.
begging for it.
Yep.
Forcing oneself into positions of leadership or power.
I mean, have we met that person? Are we ever that person?
You mean forcing yourself into?
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's
the
how you
person
steal
that's
it.
like, well, I'll lead that because I can do it. I can do it. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't want you to do that. At
The fact
all.
that you're saying that means you can't do
Right.
that.
Yeah, I've stolen a bit of that. I think at work this year, actually, in that regard, but not like forcing.
With the kids.
No, not with the kids.
They're like, we need a homeroom captain. I'll do it. I'll do it.
No, I put not forcing, but like just assuming some
But are
responsibility.
you meeting
when
the
it
need for trying to meet the
feels
need for respect,
necessary?
or is it just security
yourself?
because at least it'll get done?
Or are you trying to support somebody else?
Oh gosh, I certainly do things in my life, work included, with a what's the word? Like you're not trying to get anything in return.
Altruistic?
Yes, thank you.
I
Just with an
think you-
altruistic
And
mentality.
I think you very much like to plan and organize.
Yeah.
And like it's a passion of yours and it's a gift of yours. And so I think, you
Right.
know,
It's not inherently you trying to steal respect. You're like, but it is.
No, I'll have to think about that more because I hear what you're saying, and I don't do things for an ulterior motive. I like to think I am altruistic.
well, you
in
do
my
like the
actions.
respect that comes
But
from that.
yes, that's what I'm saying. Is like in the back of my head,
Sure.
is there something that's like, hey, and if I'm real helpful, you know what? They're
But is
gonna
that your
respect-
prime-
I'm going to feel some respect from them.
Is that your primary driver though? Or is it
No, I
just
don't think it's
simply
my
because you're a
primary driver.
passionate
No.
person about what you're doing?
Right.
I-
Like
I
in,
think so. I
In
think
Rachel's
so.
case, especially at work, she takes on a ton of responsibilities because it's security. It's like she knows it's going to get done. She
Right.
cannot begin to
Right.
fathom but she doesn't want any respect. She doesn't want any acknowledgement.
She just wants to get the job done.
She wants
and
the
the
job
only
to get
person
done.
that
And everybody
knows
goes home
that
safe.
could possibly do it
her.
is Rachel.
Right.
Same thing, always giving one's opinions regardless of it being asked or considered. Now that can be attention,
Yeah.
but it's also respect. Like, well, you know what I think? Nobody cares because nobody respects you.
I'm definitely guilty
is
of that
also
too.
sad.
Like these are things I
is
have
also
done
sad.
and occasionally still do. Like honestly, like
But for that reason,
I think. Well, I think
No, I don't think you give your
it is
opinion.
filling a need though at times.
Yeah, but I don't think you're one to give your opinion regardless of it being asked for.
and if you do, I don't know that it's for respect.
Yeah, I don't think you. And if you
don't
do
think you
give your
respect
opinion,
yourself
it's
enough
not.
to
It's
even
not
do
like
that.
you're right.
You guys see me very differently than I do. I'll have to think on that.
Your self condemnation and guilt is showing.
I'm a terrible person, one way or the other, guys. Let's just.
The hair's up on the back of Brian's neck.
Oh, I'm just this next one, disagreeing just for the sake of having your way.
Well, I don't know about that.
Or just eat that, or being a contrarian just for the sake of being a contrarian.
I don't know about that.
You know, like,
There is that person like, oh, I got to take a stand.
Yeah.
yeah, we know. Yes, we know somebody.
But in
Like,
the realm of it creates respect for somehow for them to be
for them,
Yeah.
they're trying to take it, and it's just the worst.
because I can definitely see. Here I go.
Look, if you got a valid point, argue your point. But if you're just arguing for like, I have an
Arguing for the
uncle.
sake of-
I have an
Right.
uncle.
But does he do it for respect?
I don't know what he does it for. He's just a he's
not-
just a jerk.
He's not human.
He's just
A
a
disputer.
disrespectful kind
There
of
you go.
guy.
I was going with disputing. To that end, and not valuable for this podcast, my dad's dad, Papa Mitlow, he was the ultimate. No matter, he would argue with anybody about anything at any time. Now, he also did have a very high need for respect.
You know what? That's why I can't listen to sports radio. Because like
Oh,
every
it's
time when
so-
somebody calls in with opinion, they always figure out a way to disagree with them.
condescending
Even though they
and-
might
yeah.
agree with them,
No respect.
they have to figure out a way to like
Are you
disrespect.
talking about
like,
Mark Madden in particular?
No, like
That's
anything.
what I thought of immediately.
I mean, but he does it. Like, you know, like that guy makes a good point. It's not that you have to agree with him totally, but like
Right.
you're just pooping all
Right,
over him
yes.
for something that you don't need to. Like you could say like I can see your opinion,
I
but
agree.
I think
I've
this.
turned channels on a few guys because of that. When that starts to happen, I can't deal.
There's a little book we like to call the Bible. And I want to just very quickly talk about Matthew 22:39, which is very not misunderstood. There's a overlooked part of this. And it says, the second commandment is like it. And it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And I think that's interesting because people do love as much as they love themselves. Like there's a command in there. You do need to love yourself. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to love others. Can we apply that to respect? Respect others.
Respect yourself.
As you respect yourself. And if you don't respect yourself, is it possible to respect others? I don't have a right answer. Go.
Oh.
I think we live in a world right now where that is a very big conundrum because there are so many people that have no respect for themselves.
Or too much.
Do they think they don't?
I believe a lot of people know that they don't respect themselves. Or no, I don't know because there's so many people that are like, why am I the way that I am? Why is therapy so big right now? There's a lot of people that are just flailing.
They know they're not okay.
They know that they're not okay, but in that they don't in that mess they don't respect themselves. So it's really hard if you don't have a respect for yourself, if you can't put your own boundaries up, if you can't draw lines, if you can't understand respect in and of itself, how are you going to respect somebody else? So that it's I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I mean,
What-
I think it does.
I don't know.
Because like I don't know how you respect other people if you don't know how to respect yourself. Like you have to have some kind of respect for yourself. You know what I mean?
I'm coming to the conclusion of, I don't know that it's, you can't, but you most certainly won't.
Or you're not good at it. You're not good at respecting other people.
You're probably not aware that you don't respect yourself, but you're certainly not going to respect somebody
Because
else.
you could respect yourself in many ways, like setting boundaries with other people. So that you're not, so like then you can, so then you're okay with other people setting those boundaries with you. You know what I mean?
To bring it into the just the lens of emotional needs, when I read that quote, love your neighbor as yourself, I think about how like meeting others' emotional needs in general, not just respect, is loving, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
It's one of the three successful components of a successful relationship. We talk about open and
Yeah.
honest and vulnerable a whole lot,
right.
but we don't talk enough about mutual giving.
And so then I think the flip side of that coin is to love yourself means to understand something about your needs and how that you can healthily get the respect or the appreciation that you need. And so therefore that is,
Or
that-
you're good
I
at
see
showing
that as that.
respect
It
because you-
feels very
yeah.
natural to me to say, oh, these emotional needs are loving yourself and others.
I think this could be an entire podcast.
Right, because the
honestly.
converse is true, which is if you think of yourself too highly, can you respect anybody else?
Well, and there's so much in this, like just the mess that is people. Like when you
that would be the name of the
That is
podcast.
people.
The mess that is people.
Right now, God's like,
When you
I mean,
take-
yeah, but
when you take this truth and use it as a level, like a plumb line, and then we start to talk about this.
Hours.
Yeah,
All right,
is
make a note. But
I-
but I respect you enough to allow you to already write that note.
I have.
But here's something else before we conclude with where does this hurt go when we don't have our need for respect met. One thing we haven't talked about with respect, and it came to my mind as we were talking about not respecting yourself, respecting others. And I'm just going to throw this one word out there. Litter.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah.
oh, here we go.
What kind of human being are you?
What a very obvious way to see the disrespect.
How about this one? Shopping carts.
Right in the middle.
Less
of the,
so. It's still.
not
It's
for
still.
me.
Although,
no.
have you
Wait,
seen the
shopping
guy?
carts.
Well,
wait,
that's different. I
wait.
agree. I
But
agree.
that's
Okay.
that. Ooh.
You talk about somebody that doesn't have respect. They don't have respect for themselves. They don't have respect for the establishment.
I'm not
They
saying it's
can't-
not disrespectful, but I think a litter is to me more disrespectful than a shopping cart not being returned.
They're the same for me.
Same level of hell.
Yeah, it's
At
first,
least a
it's first
shopping
and second
cart,
base.
I assume they had a need for it. So it's not
Oh no,
quite
so you're
the
talking
same
about
level.
taking one.
See,
Yeah. What are you
You're
guys
talking about not returning one.
I'm talking
not
about
returning
one.
one.
Oh, that's another whole level.
Oh, no,
when
see,
you
I
see somebody
went-
rolling down Rhode Eye Road with their shopping cart, like mile or a
Hey, I was
50
just at Big Lots. I'm just going to take.
So I
Big
get to
Lots
keep
shopping
this.
cart. I don't have any respect for their property.
They're just taking it to the other big
I,
lots.
I took pictures of people in Penn Hill Shopping Center with a Aldi shopping cart, which, to be fair, they put a quarter in.
Brad, they own it.
And they had two kids in the shopping cart and one teeny tiny small bag, and they were heading up to Duff Road. Like
So
they didn't even need
they were
as
using
a
it as a
stroller.
stroller.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is something.
I mean, you know. Well, like me and Brian, you talked about the Big Lots, or Jay or whatever, taking the Big Lots cart, and I was like, oh, and then I could hear Chris like, well, they're probably taking it to the other Big Lots. It's okay. But no,
I'm not saying it's okay. All I'm saying is, to me, it's not the same level as litter, because litter, it has no function. There's nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
My convenience matters more than your
Yes.
cleanliness. Somebody else will do it. Not my problem.
right.
the entitlement of
is
litter.
entitlement?
It's a huge entitlement.
I think there's more of an entitlement to litter than there is to a cart.
I believe, yeah,
But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to our last point,
Yeah.
there's a girl on my volleyball team right now who reminds me of a player who played 10 years ago, who in that same Penn Hill shopping center at the light where Blockbuster used to be
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
I'm coming down the hill. She's turning, throws a huge bag, this is 10 years ago, of McDonald's out the window.
And it's still there.
I stop the car and I point at her, and she stops her car, laughs, picks it up. Later on, posts on social media, LOL, coach caught me littering today. A, you're throwing a whole bag of fast food out the window.
Yeah.
B, you're going to post about it like it's a joke
LOL.
and tell the world.
Right.
And 3, you're LOLing that?
Yep.
You talk about not respecting yourself.
Brian's like, there's a special place in hell for,
And
for posting it.
she was towing a shopping cart.
Yeah, we've reached the point with this where like my eyes have started to get glassy because like, you know, all the anger's up and
It's heavy.
I'm
Well,
just becoming that robot.
As you're going through this, Brian, and you have so much anger when your need isn't met, if you don't have respect met, where does it go when it goes to anger? Because when our needs aren't met, they go 4 places, one of which is anger.
Demanding the respect from others.
See number 6 above.
See number 6 above. And never respecting others.
Yeah, if you get disrespected enough, you're a wrecking ball.
Well, think about my example with Ethan at the with the sword. I walked away from him, and then I didn't give a crap about what sword he bought.
Perfect example.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said something about guilt, Chris?
Yeah. In this case, you know, if you are not getting the respect that you need, then you're seeing one's lack of respect toward you as a result of your own failures, whether it be in tasks, relationships, life in general.
If I was better at what I did, people would respect me.
It's your fault. It's my
your
fault
fault.
that people aren't respecting me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do self-condemnation.
I don't. Sorry, it does not compute to me.
Never been a thing my fault.
Wouldn't know it if it smacked me in
Famous
the
Brian
face.
quotes.
I do not respect anyone who would think it would be their fault. You deserve to not have respect, as a matter of fact.
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, that's okay. So a lot of mine goes to self-condemnation. Not in this, but believing that one is not worthy of respect, and others are right to not respect them.
Gosh, don't you feel bad?
Well, and like I feel like I deserve respect. Like, so, and it's not a high need of mine, so it's not like a big concern of mine. But there is somebody that sits at the table with us frequently that their mind was blown because they do have a high need for respect, and because they have self-condemnation, they didn't think that they were deserving of it, and it blew that person's mind because.
That's like a double whammy.
It is a double.
Hey,
exactly,
I have a
exactly.
high need for respect,
Yeah.
but,
But why would you?
Why,
I don't really
why
deserve
would
it.
I?
Yeah.
It's a
That is
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's a terrible.
Right.
That is a
thing.
horrible
I'm
combination.
sorry.
And why would this really important person in my life?
Hey, if they want to talk to me, I could probably help them work through that.
But yeah, it was mind blowing, and it really
Wow.
yeah. And I thought that because I couldn't really relate because I don't have that high need of respect.
But did
And
you
I was
apply
like,
it to your own needs?
what?
Well, like, okay, well, I don't have a need for respect.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. But with this person, like something really clicked with him because he wasn't getting that need met of respect, and it's because he didn't think he was good enough. But man, living in that world of like you need this thing and you don't think you're good enough.
But man,
Yeah.
do I celebrate that aha moment that you got
Right.
to have
Oh,
with
yeah,
him
yeah, totally.
or her.
Right. Right.
Anonymous person. I think that's great. In the future, make sure that we continue when we use anonymous people to give them creative names.
Jojo,
Okay.
Jojo.
Bobo.
Feliciano.
Oh, the Miller family was on the podcast earlier today.
Huh?
You had the Millers. Talk about the Millers
I wasn't here.
with the report card on the.
Yes, the Millers, that Miller family.
Millers don't get bees.
And don't forget about who are the Trixie and
Oh, I knew Trixie.
Malcolm. Malcolm and Trixie.
That's right.
Lastly, when our needs are not met, it can go to fear, and that's just nobody's gonna respect me. I'm so afraid. I'm not even gonna try to accomplish. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna wither away and just be unnoticeable.
You're afraid of the next time
You get
someone's going to
disrespected.
disrespect.
So you just
Yeah.
shut it all down.
Yeah.
Stop trying
Don't
to
even
accomplish.
try.
Stop
Yep.
trying to be.
Oh my
stop trying to
gosh.
matter. Just disappear, and that'll slide right into self-condemnation.
Self-condemnation, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What an episode.
Told you we wouldn't make it an hour,
Yeah, Duke's gonna be so happy.
You're welcome.
and we already have another spin-off from this in the future.
Excellent. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up episode 172. Please make sure to give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.